you're dealing with people who don't think the same way you do. And that's the challenge. That's the big challenge of international work. But it's actually the challenge, as I'm sure people on the webinar will know, when you go from one organization to another, whether it's a school or a university, it's another business, people don't necessarily think the way you do, and trying to work out how you get the best from people who think in lots of different ways. And we used to have all sorts of meetings with people from different countries and different businesses around the table, and they don't all think the way you do. So I think one of the things I would say is that when I started as a diplomat, it's quite a long time ago, we all rather assumed, and I think we almost told, that we could have a career for life. We would join from university or a little bit later and stay till we're retired, and that's all we'd do. World has changed a lot since then. A lot of my former diplomatic colleagues have moved out and gone into business or into another organization. Quite a lot of people join the diplomatic service in Britain, at any rate now, much later, and government quite likes to have people who've got different sorts of backgrounds and experience. And I think that's true, not everywhere in the world, perhaps to the same extent, but it's increasingly true around the world. And I think for people who are starting their careers around now, the likelihood that you will stay, if you join your country's diplomatic service, or you join the UN, or you join a particular bank, or whatever it might be, now, the chances that you'll still be there in the end of your career is very, very small. And on the whole, I think you will benefit, and the organizations you work for will benefit from having a broader range of experience. So, of course, if you're looking to join a foreign ministry in the next year or two, you're going to be focused on that, and that is right, and that's great. But don't assume that you will necessarily, if you start next year, you will necessarily retire as an ambassador in 20 or 30 or whatever it is years' time, and not having done anything else in between. I think that's didn't happen for me, and I think it's even less likely for people in the future.
Thank you, Ambassador. Yeah, very interesting point. Maybe for some of you who are not familiar with that, but related to what you just said, some UN agencies actually have something called a rotation policy, which means that you are not allowed to, even if you have a fixed contract with that UN agency, you have to leave after a certain amount of years. For some agencies, for example, it's 7 years. So after 7 years, you have to either swap agency and find another UN organization, or go back to the private sector. So I think that's what you just said is really essential for everyone starting a career, and maybe it takes a lot of pressure away as well. That it might not be the career you will pursue for the next 10 years. It might be something you'll be doing for some years, and there are other opportunities out there. And as you mentioned it, I really liked you called it a challenge, right? And to be motivated by challenges and to find new areas where you can get that motivation again is really important. And therefore I also believe that these transferable skills and soft skills, as we call them, are absolutely essential to keep many doors open and to have that opportunity to have a career change also at a later stage, and that can be any age. And I think that's great to know, and that I think makes the decision of which university lesson you sign up for, or which company you apply for, a bit easier, because you can stay flexible.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, these decisions really seem very important when you take them, but if you look back 5 years time, few people will be asking precisely what you were doing 5 years ago. They'll look at what it is you can do, what skills you've got. Mm-hmm. Some of those may be specialist skills. I mean, you can, if you're going to, if you're going into a foreign ministry or an international agency, and you get some specific experience in a part of the world or a particular function, that's something obviously to cultivate, because people do like seeing specialist skills. But precisely which university, precisely which company, precisely which department, 5 years' time, people won't be asking those questions. It's a bit like taking all those exams that people take. It matters hugely at the time, but 5 years' time, not many people are looking at grades.